And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Acceleracers for another video. Hopefully you guys are all doing awesome. So for today's video, guys, as you guys remember, a little while ago, we did sort of a market update on the Teku and Metal Maniac cars, just, taking a look at the most recent sold listings for, the last 10 listings of all those cars, just to get an idea of an average price point that each of the carded cars were moving at, sort of see if the prices were going up or going down. And a lot of them were coming down pretty noticeably. A lot of the Teku and Metal Maniac cars are selling now cheaper than they were, a month ago. So for today's video, guys, we're gonna be taking a look at the Silencers and the Racing Drones and see if any of these carded cars are coming down in prices like the Teku and the Metal Maniacs. Definitely is a good sign to see if you are looking to start a carded collection to see prices coming down, because a while ago, some of the people that were buying reverbs and spectites and stuff, $300, $500, $600, a lot of those prices are coming down. We've had a bunch of reverbs sell, sub 200 recently. So kind of rough if you did happen to get in at its peak, but that's also one of the issues with collecting. You never really know when it's going to keep going up or come down, but we do seem to be in a bit of a downward spiral now as far as carded prices go, which is awesome. So let's go ahead and jump right into the Silencers and the Racing Drone. All right, guys, we are back at our trusty spreadsheet here. So these are the last 10 sold listings. I recorded this on June 9th, which was like 2 weeks ago on the dot, or 2 weeks in a day. So we're gonna start off with RDO 1. So just like last time, we had the name of the car over on the left, then the average price of the last 10 listings right next to it. As you see, the average price for RDO 1 was $52.74, which is absolutely steep lately compared to what some of the other cars have been going for. But anyways, looking over to the right, we have the last 10 sold listings. As you can see, the ones in bold are the factory sealed set listings. So that means that only one factory sealed set one is sold, and it went for $44.20 right in that 3 spot there. So it's actually one of the cheaper ones that sold. The best price is highlighted in green of the last 10. So somebody got one for $33 carded, which is not bad at all. And the steepest one is in the number 10 spot, $85.89 for a carded RDO 1. $85. So moving on to RDO 2, and there actually weren't that many of these that had sold recently. There were only 8, I think, in the sold listings. So looking through them, somebody got one for $32, which is a pretty good deal based on the way prices have been going recently. And the worst priced one was $85.44. Gosh, somebody paid $85 for this and $85 for an RDO 1. But prices still seem to be coming down when you look down from the furthest sales, in that 9-10 spot all the way down to number 1 and 2, they are coming down. Moving on to RDO 3. So this one actually is a good bit cheaper. As you can see, RDO 1's average price was $52. RDO 2 was $56. RDO 3 actually comes in right at $39 on average over the last 10 sold listings. So the worst priced one was a $65 factory sealed set one that is highlighted in red. The cheapest one was $21. So somebody got a carded one for 21 bucks, and then the next person spent like 65 on a factory sealed set version. But that is definitely steep. I'm not sure why people are spending, 3 times as much for a factory sealed set one. And moving on to RDO 4, as you can see, the worst priced one was actually the most recent sold. Someone actually bought one for $52 recently, but the cheapest one was sold, a day or two earlier for $20. So just kind of makes you wonder. And there was actually another one that sold for the same exact price, $20.45 in that 9 spot. So people are getting them for pretty cheap, and really that $29 average price is really bolstered by that one recent sale that went for $52, because all the other ones seem to be like high 20s, low 20s. But moving on to RDO 5, and RDO 5 is funny because their RDO 5 really didn't go up in price the way a lot of the other carded cars have been. It's always been kind of in that $30 to $50 range. I mean, it was 30, a couple years ago, but now it has sort of hit that $50 range, but it's always kind of been in that range. Whereas, RDO 8 and Reverb and all those other ones really took off in value, RDO 5 has always seemed to be pretty stable in that range. But the best deal was a $53 one, and the worst was a $67 one. But almost all of these are between like $50 and $65. And moving on to RDO 6, the average price is $30.29 over the last 10 sold listings. This was always the most common drone vehicle that I saw on shelves. I can't really speak too much about the case distribution back in the day. I don't know if it was truly the most common, but it is the one that I see the most of for sure. But the most recent one sold for $42, which is an absolute soul crusher. But all the other ones were like mid to high 20s, and somebody actually got one for $18 carded, which is not too bad of a deal for anything these days. Moving on to RDO 8, definitely the most expensive of the drone vehicles. The average price is $131. So looking through some of the most recent sold listings, there have been about 8 of them that have sold. Somebody actually got a carded one for $81 recently. And I know several have sold since I did this video, but as of June 9th, $81 was the best price on one, and the worst price was an $187 one that was a factory sealed set version. There was actually 3 of these that were factory sealed set ones that sold. But it's funny because once again, these prices seem to be lowering, down to the low 100s. But ironically, even though you see prices on the spreadsheet that are much lower, at least the last time I checked Ardio 8 prices, all the ones that were listed were still like $150 to $200. So it's like the deals that do pop up, they sell pretty quickly. So you definitely got to keep your eyes peeled for these. And moving on to RD10, always wonder why RD10 was numbered before Ardio 9 in the Racing Drones sequence. But the average price for RD10 was $46. As you can see here, the cheapest one was the one that sold in the 9 spot. Somebody got a carded one for $22, which is a pretty darn good deal for, like I said, just about any carded accelerator these days, outside of, the most common Metal Maniacs like Ratified. But other than that, they are still pretty much in the mid 40s to 50s for RD10. And then moving on to Ardio 9, the average price was $46 for an Ardio 9, which is interesting that it is just a little bit above RD10. They are like neck and neck. But I thought it was interesting that both of those were cheaper than Ardio 1 and Ardio 2. Ardio 2 never really recovered from the whole Hot Wheels Unleashed thing. And Ardio 1 seems to be just high for whatever reason. It never really seemed to be one of the rarer drone vehicles to me. Outside of Ardio 8, really all of them seem to pop up pretty common. But anyways, RD10 and Ardio 9 are neck and neck at 46. And then, of course, I did an average of all the drone prices down, and I sort of ranked them from the most expensive to the least expensive. So Ardio 8 at the top, $131 average price, and then half of that for Ardio 5, which is $62, and then Ardio 2, Ardio 1, Ardio 9, RD10. And it's just interesting to sort of see how these prices go. And then $39 for Ardio 3, $30 for Ardio 6, and Ardio 4 was actually the cheapest one over the last 10 sold listings, which is fascinating because Ardio 6 was always far and away the one that I saw for the cheapest and the most on eBay. It's interesting that Ardio 4 is now lower than it. And then moving on to the silencers, this was interesting. There was actually only 7 sold listings for an Octanium as of the time I recorded this video, which would be less than Ardio 8 and Ardio 5 and all those other drone vehicles. But Octanium has always been fairly common, so I don't know what's going on there. Just not a lot of them selling, I guess. But the worst priced one was a $43 one, and the cheapest one was a $20 one, and the average price was right at $28 for an Octanium. And those normally do have some pretty good trading cards in them, so not too bad of a price, honestly, at $28. Moving on to Nitrium, this one blew me away. Nitrium's average price over the last 10 sold listings was $30, so it's more than Octanium, even though Nitrium was always really the most common one. Once again, the most common for me on shelves. I know it was different for everybody else based on where you lived, but Nitrium was the one I far and away saw the absolute most of. But the best priced one over the last 10 listings was a $23 one, and the worst priced one was $52.48 for a Nitrium. And then moving on to Anthracite, which is even cheaper than Nitrium and Octanium. So Nitrium is sort of climbing that price ladder there, unfortunately. But Anthracite, the worst one was a $37 one, and the cheapest one was a $22 one. So at least it's kind of stable within that $22 to $37 range instead of being like over a $50 range. But one thing that is a bit of a bummer is that the 2 worst listings for Octanium and Anthracite were both within the last 2 sales. So those prices have been kind of ticking up a little bit. Moving on to Iridium. So the cheapest Iridium sold for $24 over the last 10 sold listings. That's not a bad price at all. The worst one was a $46 one, but it was a factory sealed set one, so maybe that's why it went a little bit higher than the others. But on average, Iridium sold for $36 over the last 10 sold listings. And then moving on to Carbide, this is where it starts to take a bit of a jump. But this one actually has a really big range over the last couple of sales. So there are 3 factory sealed set carbides that sold for a value of $34, $50, and $63. So just all over the place for those factory sealed set ones. And the cheapest carded one that sold was a $25 carbide, which is not a bad deal at all. But on average, carbide sold right at $43 over the last 10. And then moving on to Covlite, once again, a ton of factory sealed set ones selling. There are 4 factory sealed set Covlites that sold out of the last 10 sold listings. Absolutely breaks my heart to see all those factory sealed sets being broken up. But once again, all over the place in price. The cheapest Covlite that sold was a $40 Covlite in that 10 spot. You can see it highlighted in green. $40 for a carded Covlite. And the worst one, this is one really kills me, is a $197 Covlite that was in the 4 spot. So from $40 to $197. Unfortunately, when there is one that's just absolutely off the wall like that almost $200 Covlite, it kind of throws your average values off. So Covlite came in right at $112, but it's probably a good bit less than that. That $197 one really did kind of skew the numbers. Moving on to Excellium, and once again, we have a new cheapest silencer. So Excellium now is cheaper than Octanium, Anthracite, and Nitrium based on the last 10 sold listings. But the cheapest Excellium sold for $19.45. The most expensive was $38.68. And someone got a factory sold set one for 20 bucks, which is not too bad. You can see it highlighted in bold. And then moving on to Metalloid, which I don't know, Metalloid's kind of odd. There's only 7 sold listings for Metalloid, the same as Octanium. But once again, Metalloid was never really like rare for me. So I don't really know why there's not that many sold Metalloids. They seem to pop up pretty frequently. But the average price for Metalloid over the last 7 sold listings was right at $37, which is a pretty penny. But once again, it's not terrible. You know, it's not in those Racing Drones levels where they're all like in the 50s. And then moving on to the last silencers car, which is Technetium. Technetium, once again, a little bit all over the place. There was only 8 sold listings for this, and they kind of ranged heavily in value. So the cheapest one was in that 6th spot. It was a $31.24 card of Technetium. That's not a bad deal at all. 30 bucks for a Technetium. I mean, you can probably sell a loose Technetium for close to 30 bucks. So not too bad. But the most expensive one was $64.17. And just look at those most recent 3 sales, you know, $49, $64, $53, just all over the place. And then just like I did for the drones, I ranked the silencers vehicles based on the most expensive to the least expensive over the last 10 sold listings. So Covelite was at number 1 at $112 on average. But once again, I think those numbers are a little bit skewed. It's probably, you know, a little bit under 100, which still is a lot. Covelite really did jump. I mean, even like 6 months ago, you could buy carded Covelites for like 40 to 50 bucks. They really weren't that rare. So I think it was just a bad timing thing where there just weren't many listed. And the 1 or 2 that were listed got listed for absolutely ridiculous prices. And it happens quick. Once 1 or 2 sell, you know, at $100+, then, you know, every single one that's listed gets listed for the same amount, which is, it's just the way it goes, unfortunately, when there's not a ton of the product listed. I mean, if there's only 3 or 4 listings for something, then the price can be influenced very, very easily. It's not like, you know, Pokemon cards where you'll have hundreds and hundreds of the same card listed. It would take a lot to skew a price. But with the Acceleracers, they can be skewed a lot easier. So then after Covelite, it was Technetium at $49, Carbide at $43, Metalloid at $37, Iridium at $36, and then Nitrium. This is stunning to me that Nitrium is in that 6th spot at $30 on average, with Octanium, Anthracite, and Excellium all a decent bit below it, you know, 28, 27, and 25. But that sort of caps off our recap of the prices. Once again, this was recorded on June 9th, so it's been about 2 weeks. There's been some sold listings since then. But definitely interesting to see that these prices, the drones seem to be coming down a bit. But looking at the silencers, as you can see those red squares in that big block of sold listings up above, there are unfortunately a bunch of worst sold listings that are in, you know, the most recent 3 or 4 sales. I think there's 4 of them. But on the whole, they do seem to be coming down a little bit. But I don't know. It doesn't seem to be coming down as much as the drone vehicles are. And I would love to see some of those drones start dropping, you know, sub 50. And that is going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed my little, you know, price breakdown of what everything's been selling at, you know, and hopefully the prices continue to come down for the carded collectors out there, because man, some of those cars selling, you know, $300 to $500 a piece is absolutely like unfathomable. I can't believe people are paying that much for those cars. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed, be sure to smash the like button for me. If this series is popular, you know, I might keep doing it, like an update every 2 or 3 months. I think it'd be pretty cool to see, you know, the sold listings from the last 10 sales, you know, right here, and then to see it again in 3 months and sort of see what the prices are doing, you know, quarterly throughout the year. I think that would be pretty cool. Plus, I think it would also be pretty cool for people to, you know, look back, you know, 5 years from now and see what prices are selling at. Because a lot of people, you know, can talk about what the prices were in 2017, 2018. I wasn't around for that. I have no idea what stuff was selling at then, but I know it was a lot cheaper than it is now. But I think it would be pretty cool to have some sales data recorded now so that people can look at it, you know, down the road as well and just go, wow, I cannot believe prices were that high, or prices were that low. You know, who knows? We could have $10,000 chicanes by then, you know. But anyways, before I get off on a tangent, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the Acceleracers Hub for more Acceleracers related content, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys.